We are back for Dexter Original Sin Episode 3 recap and review. Let's get into it. I'm Pamela. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're recapping Episode 3. The episode is titled Miami Vice. The episode opens up with Patrick Dempsey's character, Captain Spencer, giving a press report about Judge Powell's kid who was kidnapped in Episode 2. We found out at the end of Episode 2 that whoever is holding this kid captive chopped off one of his fingers and sent it to Miami Metro. And when Dexter found out about this, he was pretty upset. Tanya says that it would take about 7 pounds of pressure to cut off the finger, and Dexter lets her know that it's probably done by pruning shears, and whoever this person is accustomed to violence. We also got our first sighting of LaGuerta in this episode. She has not been in the first 2 episodes, so I'm super pumped that she's finally entering the show. Played by Christina Milian, I feel like this casting is another one that is pretty spot on. We get a little scene of Captain Spencer reading a quote from her in the newspaper where she was kind of bashing Miami Metro, and she was sort of sent in to clean things up. And we find out that Spencer does not trust LaGuerta because she smeared them in the press, and they were essentially forced to hire her. Captain Spencer also says how LaGuerta has a thing for cold cases, and her issue with Miami Metro is that they have so many cases that have not been solved. Our next scene, Dexter goes to inspect Ferrer's house, Handsome Tony, to find evidence that he is in fact a serial killer because, as you guys know, one of the rules of Harry's code, I believe it's the second rule, is that he cannot kill innocent people. So he has to make sure that whoever he is killing is in fact a serial killer. He has to collect enough evidence. So he goes to Ferrer's house, he's snooping around his house, and you think he comes home because you hear his voice say, "Honey, I'm home," but it was in fact his parrot. I had a feeling after the voice said it a second time, I said to myself, I bet you it's a pet parrot. So luckily Dexter did not get caught, but he does a little digging and he finds his little book of people who owe him money. Because if you remember from Episode 2, Ferrer lends out money to people, but he puts so much interest on it. So if they miss a payment, it basically becomes impossible for them to pay him back. And the second they miss a payment, he threatens them and kills them. Dexter finds out that someone named Isabella, who couldn't pay him back, died of sepsis from 2 broken legs, which was obviously done by Ferrer. So Dexter is kind of making this plan in his mind, how he's going to kill Ferrer. He approaches Masuka for a fake ID. And Masuka kind of assumes it's for partying because Dexter isn't 21 yet, so he can kind of pass that off as the reason to Masuka. But really it's for his alias, and he uses the name Patrick Bateman, which he uses in the original show. So that's just another little Easter egg and nod to the original show. In our next scene, Dexter sees Deb's friend Sophia wearing the earrings from Nurse Mary. If you remember from Episode 2, Deb was looking for some jewelry to sell, snooping around Dexter's room, found the gold earrings that Dexter took as a trophy from Nurse Mary, and Deb ended up giving them to her friend, and Dexter sees her friend wearing them. Dex tells Deb he wants them back, and she is kind of blackmailing him a little bit and wants him to get her cocaine for the earrings back. Like, she wants to have a bunch of her girlfriends over to her house and they all do cocaine, so she wants to get her hands on some, and she tells Dexter that he needs to get her some coke. We also see Dexter reveal to Harry that he took Nurse Mary's earrings, and Harry is pretty devastated about this. He says him collecting trophies is pretty sick and that everything that they do is to prove that he is different from the people that he kills. And Dexter says he wanted the earrings to remember the kill. Dexter also asks Harry to go to a game match. I don't even know what sport it is. I think he called it High Lie. I've literally never heard of this. But it's some sport that Dexter found out that Ferrer was going to. and Dexter asks Harry to go with him, but doesn't reveal the reason why he wants to go. And Harry just kind of thinks that this is Dexter wanting to get into normal activities. And then we get another Harry flashback with Laura Moser, Dexter's mom. If you remember from episode 2, he recruited Laura to be his informant. And in this new flashback, she dresses a little nicer to sell to high-end buyers. And Harry says to Laura, remember why you're doing this. We kept you out of jail. And then Dexter goes to the game that he wanted to go to stalk Ferrer. And he's kind of talking to him about the game and gambling and his shoes. And Ferrer, aka Handsome Tony, figures out Dexter is not there for the game and asks him, how much do you need? Because Ferrer is in the business of loaning out money. And Dexter lies and says that his friend recommended Ferrer to loan him money. He took a name from the book that Ferrer kept of people who are in debt to him. So Ferrer kind of believed him, like someone that I loaned money to knows Dexter and recommended him to me. And Dexter lied and said that he needs the money for a suit for a job interview. In our next scene, Deborah brings Dexter to buy new earrings for Sophia because he obviously needs to get the gold earrings back from her. But Deb kind of wants to set them up to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and Sophia does like Dexter. And then Dexter makes fake cocaine for Deb and her friends because, like I said earlier, she wants Dexter to get her cocaine for her friends, but he doesn't know where to get it or doesn't actually want to get real coke. So he makes some fake substance with like caffeine pills and something else. I don't even remember, but he crushes it up to make some fake substance for her. And then in our next scene, Dexter goes to play pool and gamble the money from Handsome Tony. Ferrer shows up and says to Dexter, oh, the money was for a job interview, huh? Because he clearly sees that Dexter is like gambling away the money that he loaned to him. So Ferrer takes Dexter outside, threatens him to pay him back, and essentially shoots at his head, but like next to his head, and the bullet goes into the tree, which was Dexter's plan all along, so that Dexter could collect the bullet and compare it to the bullet from a past crime scene to ensure that Ferrer was in fact the killer, because he needs evidence to know that he's guilty because Dexter can't kill innocent people. In our next scene, Tanya lets Dexter know that he was right about a gardening tool being used to cut off Judge Powell's kid's finger. And then in our next scene, Dexter tells Harry about the bullet match with Ferrer and how he essentially wants to kill this guy, like for his second victim. And Harry says he thought Nurse Mary and the job at Miami Metro would be enough for Dexter, but as we know, it's not enough for him. He needs to get his second kill. And Harry lets Dex know how everything he does could potentially ruin Dexter's life, Harry's life, and Deb's life. So Harry says to him, everything that you do going forward has to go through me first. And Harry also tells him no trophies this time. He does not want Dexter to collect a trophy again, because clearly his trophy from his first kill with the earrings is already backfiring on him. And then we get yet another Harry and Laura Moser flashback. Laura's been making these drug deals to kind of incriminate people, and this time around Harry has her wear a wire, but then someone pulls up in a car unexpectedly and they force Laura to get into the car, and Harry and his partner follow her, and this random person is checking her for a wire, and Harry can hear everything that's going on, and he's kind of worried that they're going to find the wire on her, but she plays it off. She kind of like flashes them and is like, what do you want? Do you want a closer look? And luckily they don't find the wire, and as Harry is following their car, they bring Laura somewhere where there are a bunch of storage containers. And if you remember from the original show, that is where Laura was brutally murdered, inside of a storage container. So I, at first, thought this was about to be Laura's death. I really was like, holy shit, they're about to show us Laura's death in episode 3. But then I was kind of thinking about it and I realized we haven't seen Harry and Laura like hook up yet because they obviously had an affair. So at that moment, that was kind of when I knew she wasn't going to die just yet. And luckily, Laura does come back to Harry. She made it out alive. She does not die yet. And in this next flashback, she kind of wants to hook up with him, but he says no for the time being because, like I said, we know that they have an affair at some point, so it's bound to happen eventually. And then finally, towards the end of the episode, Dexter is going to carry out this kill with Ferrer. Dexter goes to his home, overpowers Ferrer, and honestly, this is so hard to watch because Dexter clearly hasn't gotten to the point where he uses like the tranquilizer to put out his victims. So like we saw in episode 1, he has to take out Ferrer by like strangling him. And I was on the edge of my seat because Ferrer is bigger than him. He's taller, he looks stronger, but Dexter successfully strangled him. Ferrer passes out. But I also not only thought that this was a little risky because Ferrer could potentially overpower him, but I also thought it was a little sloppy because Dexter was not wearing gloves and I felt like his hair could have been all over the crime scene. He was not wearing like a hairnet or a hat or anything. Dexter's hair could have potentially been all over the crime scene. Dexter brings Ferrer where the game match was, which I also thought was pretty risky because who knows who could walk in at any moment. Some kind of worker, someone who works the venue could have walked in. And at first I was like, there's no plastic everywhere. He had this guy like strapped to a table, but like standing up straight against the wall and no plastic everywhere. I thought that that was how he was going to kill him. But then he does eventually put plastic everywhere. Also, whatever sport they were playing, I said earlier, I think it was called Highlight or something. I've literally never heard of this, but Dexter was telling Ferrer how the ball travels at 180 miles per hour and it could take his head clean off. And Dexter eventually threw this ball at him, which kind of sliced Ferrer on his cheek, which I thought was again another clever little nod to the original show, because where the ball kind of sliced him on the cheek is where in the future Dexter slices his victims to collect the blood for his blood slides. So that was definitely a little foreshadowing to the future. So Dexter eventually kills Ferrer, brings him to the alligators yet again, just like he did with Nurse Mary, has the alligators eat his body. But at the end of that scene, we see Ferrer's arm pop up, which also had his like pinky ring left on his arm. So I don't know, is that like foreshadowing for the next episode that his arm is going to be found by some people? You would think that the alligators would eventually get to it, but the way that the scene was set up seemed like someone is going to find Ferrer's arm. So that might pose a problem for Dexter in episode 4. And when Dexter brought him to the alligators, he had blood all over his shirt. So this whole thing, this whole kill with Ferrer, the whole time I was just thinking, this is pretty sloppy. Clearly, when Dexter gets older, he is much more efficient, more discreet, and I don't know, I think next episode, this might be an issue for Dexter. And then the episode ends with Dexter and Deb having breakfast together. But there you have it. That is my little recap and review for episode 3 of Dexter Original Sin. Like I said in my previous 2 recaps, I am just enjoying the hell out of the show. It has been blowing me away. I honestly did not know what to expect when they first announced the show back in the summertime. I was a little hesitant. I really didn't think that anyone other than Michael C. Hall could play Dexter, but Patrick Gibson has been blowing me away. I think most of the casting is phenomenal as well, like Batista, Masuka, LaGuardia, everyone is just so good. The only one that I'm not really sold on yet is Deb. For some reason, Deb's character in this prequel show, I'm just not crazy about. She's not terrible. I do think that she does a pretty okay job of recapturing original Deborah vibes, but I don't know. She's not my favorite compared to a lot of the other characters. But like I said in my previous video, I am loving these Harry flashbacks, the Harry and Laura Moser flashbacks. I feel like it's just doing a really great job of revealing some more stuff about Harry that we might not have known before. And I do feel like this show is a prequel for not just Dexter, but also Harry. And I'm just looking forward to finding out some more stuff. But that is it for today. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Make sure you turn on all notifications so you don't miss out on future Dexter posts, because you can definitely expect a lot more Dexter content coming your way. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on episode 3, and I will see you guys next time.